At 3:14 a.m., the camera in the burial gallery showed all 7 clay figures turned to face the wall. At 3:16, they were back on their plinths, arranged in a half circle around an empty space where the smallest one used to stand. Nothing moved between those 2 frames. In the gap, 1 minute and 40 seconds, the gallery microphone caught a wet, dragging sound and something clearing its throat very close to the lens. Incident report filed by Martin Vale, temporary night security officer, Harrow Museum of Folk History. This covers my 3rd solo shift in the East Wing, October the 18th, 2200 hours to 0507. I'm adding notes in brackets because the form has boxes for damaged property and unauthorized entry, and nothing that happened fits in a box. My duties: lock verification at 2215, motion sensor sweep at 2300, HVAC walk at midnight, camera monitoring between rounds. East Wing was closed for reinstallation of Exhibit 12, the hearth court. 7 fired clay figures and household iron pulled from a demolished farmhouse near Stanner. The curator's note said the layout had to match the donor photographs exactly before Friday's tour. It already didn't. On my first pass, the dining chair, 1 leg shorter than the others, had been turned to face the doorway. I turned the chair back myself at 2241. Logged it as housekeeping error. It belongs against the far wall, angled in with the cradle frame. The chair weighs less than it looks. Dry old wood, hollowed by rot, and 1 rear foot wore a felt pad newer than the rest, bright beige against soot-black grain. I notice stupid things when I'm trying not to notice a room. The 7 clay figures aren't statues, not really. Knee-high, unglazed, thumbprints still pressed into the cheeks. No faces, just pinched ridges, hollows for eyes, cuts for teeth. Donor paperwork calls them protective forms, set out in a sick room during winter fever. 1 is smaller than the rest, 30 inches maybe, meant to be a child. At 2308, camera E4 refreshed, and the chair had turned toward the doorway again. No alarm, no motion trip, just a different position between 2 frames. I went back in myself before calling it upstairs. Old buildings throw false alarms, and I wanted to be sure. Gallery E was still locked. I unlocked it. The air inside sat a few degrees warmer than the hallway, stale the way sealed basements get. The figure wasn't stolen. It was under the chair, laid on its side between the front legs like something hiding there. Clay leaves an orange dust when it drags across wood, and 2 fresh streaks ran from the plinth to where it lay. No cracks, no break at the neck, but the head had turned farther than the body should allow. The ridge where a face should be was aimed straight at me. I put it back and radioed the control desk to report a display disturbance. No answer. I tried twice more. Then the desk radio answered from inside Gallery E, from under the cradle frame, in my supervisor Lena's voice. "Martin, don't put them back wrong again." Lena signed out at 1812. I watched her leave in a blue raincoat, thermos in her bag. She was 40 minutes gone by train. Her voice came through my radio from under the cradle frame anyway, muffled by wood, like the handset was tucked beneath it. I crouched and looked. No radio, no person, just old varnished floorboards, and a clod of hair snagged on a rusted caster wheel, light brown, tied off near one end with red thread. I backed out, shut the door, tried the landline. Dead tone. My mobile held 1 bar and refused every call. So I reviewed the last 10 minutes on camera at E4. It showed me entering alone at 2310, kneeling by the chair, lifting the small figure with both hands, exactly as I remembered it, except the footage showed 8 figures in the room, not 7. I stepped through it frame by frame. The 8th was folded into the corner by the fire tools, where there's no plinth and never has been. Same dust color as the others, at a glance. Then I saw the sheen was wrong, damp, packed, more like skin holding dust than clay holding a glaze. Head bent forward, arms wrapped around its own shins, hair hanging over where a face would be. In one frame, back to the camera, It pressed its fingers flat against the floorboards, testing them. I checked the live feed, corner empty. At 002, the east wing lights dropped to emergency level for 7 seconds. When they came back, camera E4 had tilted, not cut, tilted, slow enough to watch happen, pointed at the floor. I ran the corridor with a torch and a baton I have never once needed to use. I know how that sounds now. The gallery door was open. I had shut it. All 7 figures had been lifted off their plinths and set in a line, leading toward the service corridor. The small one led. The public never sees the service corridor. Plaster dust, old wiring, the smell of wet stone behind galleries E through H. The line of figures ended at a narrow door on a brass slide bolt. Behind it, a dead storage cavity, left over from the 1890 farmhouse the museum was built around. The bolt was already open. Before I touched it, I heard sound on the other side. Small taps, ceramic against brick, then something heavier, a drag and a breath drawn in after it. I called out. Nothing answered. I opened the door 6 inches and put the torch through the gap. 8 feet of packed dirt floor and brick wall. Museum overflow, wrapped mannequins, a rolled carpet, 2 crates, and against the far wall, the missing dining chair from Exhibit 12, though the door frame is too narrow for it to have passed through without scraping. Something was sitting in it, knees first, then hands, folded in a lap, then a chin wet with dust paste, tilting up into the light, while behind me in the gallery, the clay figures began knocking themselves off their feet, one at a time. I shut the door and threw the bolt. Something pushed back from the other side. Not a slam, a slow, patient pressure, enough to keep the latch from seating. I got my shoulder into it. 3 soft knocks came through the wood, into my spine. Then my radio turned itself on. Lena's voice again, calm, reading numbers like an inventory sheet. 12E4, fired clay, female form. 12E5, fired clay, juvenile form. 12E6, wood chair, smoke damage. 12E7, watchman, mixed media, condition poor, eyes open. I went for the security office to trip the evacuation alarm by hand. The breaker panel was already open, not forced, opened. 3 of Exhibit 12's accession tags had been hung off the switches like bookmarks, their little strings soaked through. I didn't touch them. At 3:14, I got camera E4 back for 1 clear stretch. 7 figures, all facing the wall. At 3:16, they were on their plinths again, in a half circle around a space where the small one should have been. Something cleared its throat, close to the lens. Officers reached East Wing at 04:27, after I got a call out from the loading bay landline. No intruder was found, no forced entry. Officially, Exhibit 12 was logged as disturbed by an unidentified trespasser, and the gallery was closed pending review. This part isn't in the report I signed. When the officers walked Gallery E, everything matched the donor photographs. 7 figures, chair at the wall, nothing underneath. The service cavity held nothing but drag marks in the dirt, and a wet patch shaped like 4 chair legs. They took my radio and my keys. Unclipping the radio, I found orange dust packed into the speaker grill. And the small figure wasn't the rough, unfinished shape from the intake photos anymore. The cheeks had flattened. The nose set crooked, broken and reset. Pressed into the clay around its eyes were 2 clean oval hollows, the exact size of my thumbs. Subscribe if you want to see the inventory photos they emailed me this morning.